What's up my people, my name is Sugar and today we are reading.
Just kidding, I'll do the episode.
But we are taking your submission for the bra of the day. Go in the description below to find out how to do it.
This kid at my school was stalking my friend, so me and the boys got him expelled. Loaded but not forgotten. And finally, teacher tries to get me to fail. I get him fired. But before we get into the story of how some kids managed to put another kid in trouble and he deserved it, congratulations Sheba Kobe for the comment of the day, and everyone leave a fire emoji in the comments if you think the video is fire. This kid at my school was stalking my friend, so me and the boys got him expelled. I have been waiting to post this forever since school got out, but hold on tight because this is a good one. The time has come to pick student council president for next year, and there are two candidates. Let's call them Charlie and Franklin. Everyone at school loves Charlie. Franklin, however, is this stuck-up religious kid who thinks he can do whatever he wants to women. And me and my three other friends, who I will call Zachary, Joe, and David, seem to be the only ones who noticed or cared. We thought he was going to win, because this is Bible-thumping North Carolina I am talking about here. All the Christian kids loved him, and that made up 70% of the school. Let's start out about 2 weeks before the next student council president is chosen. I am at my job when I finally get to take my break. I check my phone and see my friend, who we will call Kat. She texted me. There's a lot of names. Sorry. She texts me.
Hey, do you know Franklin in our grade?
Yeah, I can't stand him.
Yeah, I kind of think he's been stalking me.
I had been waiting for something like this. Not Kat getting stalked, hell no, but finally some evidence to reveal how bad Franklin is. So I text my friends Joe, Zachary, and David and tell them I may have some serious dirt on Franklin. Let's meet at the park sometime so we can take him down. They all agree, and the very next day we were in the park in our neighborhood hatching out our plan. It came all so quick to us, it was amazing. It was like we were thinking the exact same things and then coming up with even better ways to make it all work. Finally, we get the plan in work. We had Kat turn on your read receipt on her phone, so Franklin knew he was ignoring her text. Also, a little background on how Kat got his number is that they were partners for a project, but he clearly wanted more. Anyway, this will frustrate Franklin, and it will cause him to show up at Kat's house. Kat had cameras outside of her house too, so it was perfect. She would also screenshot their texts and send them to me. I will get into my TV production teacher's computer and email them the screenshots. David, who was in the same class as me, will distract the teacher as I did it, but I had to wait. I wanted to make sure Franklin's life was ruined. Joe and Zachary's job was the most difficult. We were going to get Franklin to confess to groping, stalking, and attempting to raid or assault the girls who went to our school. But they were not friends, so it was going to be hard. So a week passes by, and Franklin shows up to Kat's house. He is fuming. I was at Kat's house that day because he texted Kat in all caps. "Stop ignoring me! What did I do? Huh? I did not hurt you. I just want to talk." She told me to come over ASAP. I was coming over no matter what, so thankfully I was not busy. I wanted to witness Franklin's meltdown. He bangs on Kat's door and Kat answers and said,
"Can you go away? Take a hint, you effing creep."
As she closing the door, Franklin violently grabs her arm and says, "I love you, Kat," and then proceeded to try and grab her butt and kiss her. Kat then slammed the door and began to cry. I was shocked. This fiend knew no bounds. I hugged Kat immediately after. I was definitely going for the kill now. I told Joe and Zachary the next day at school to scrap their plan. I had gotten the footage from Kat's cameras and told them to give it to our deputy, who is awesome, and we knew he'd keep us anonymous, and then pass it on to our principal. Once again, we had to wait to strike because we wanted to make sure his little 15 seconds of fame turned into 15 eternities of suffering. Flash forward about 5 or 6 days later and the day has come. So, first period, I show up to my TV productions and I see David. He is so ready. The plan was he was going to talk to my teacher outside about a specific shot he wanted, but he needed help with it and wanted him to demonstrate. The teacher obliged and my time came. I plugged in the flash drive, all Mr. Robot style, and download a slideshow of screenshots. Oh, they were all extremely zoomed in, so no one could miss it. I sent it to all the teachers and administration and had it titled titled as "Here's this week's episode of..." Most teachers ignore it until the end of the class. I knew my next teacher would, so I was not stressing. Teacher comes back and does not suspect a thing. No one snitches on me or anything. It was too perfect. The bell rings and Joe screams for me and David. We rush over. "I got the debt to deputy. Did you email the screenshots?" Joe asked. I did not even have to say anything. I just gave him a look and he knew. So I sat down in my second period, preparing for the mayhem to come. My teacher begins to play the candidates video. They start off by showing the candidates and the candidates saying why you should vote for them. We go through historian, treasurer, VP, and another two. I can't remember what they were. Before we get to president, Charlie goes first. And this class I was in was not full of the stuck-up Christian kids, so they love Charlie. Frank goes and it is dead silent. No one cares, but I knew a lot would, and this classroom was a minority. The final 10 to 15 minutes second period arrived, and my teacher per usual goes, "Who wants to watch this week's?" Everyone says yes, and we all knew it would help pass the time, but I knew something everyone else did not. It felt kinda good, to be honest, like I was Robin Hood. The slides roll, and the whole class gasps at the messages. The kid next to me I hear go under his breath, "Holy, Franklin is so doomed." Then the teacher looked around like she had no clue what the F to do. She was flabbergasted. 5 teenagers successfully bamboozled an entire school run by adults. Franklin left school early that day. Later that day, deputy pulled me into his office and thanked me for what I did. He said he took real courage to do what I did. I wanted to cry, to be honest. I told him to just please keep it anonymous. I don't want any drama. I don't want to be seen as hero or a villain. I just want to go into my senior year with no worries. He happily obliged and gave me a big bear hug. Now, while this event only happened about a month and a half ago, Franklin got really screwed. The school kicked him out. Kat's family eventually found out and went to court, only to be paid an undisclosed settlement before anything could get kicked off. Finally, Franklin will be homeschooled his senior year. Charlie won president and I was so happy. Turns out, he actually had Franklin beat even if nothing had happened to him. Oops. Joe, David, and Zachary are doing well. I could not have completed the task at hand without them. And finally, me and Kat are dating, and we are seeing You Story 4 tomorrow. So, go screw yourself, Franklin. So yes, I got the last laugh. I hope Franklin can turn it around. I want the world to be full of more kind people than evil people. I hope he changes, but for now, he can go screw himself. But always remember, fellas, be an upstander, not a bystander. I wonder if anyone else actually knew, but did not speak up. But I did, and I was not going to let this Franklin get away. Loathed but not forgotten. This happened to my wife's family about 10 or so years ago and features entitled people as well. My wife's grandparents lived next door to a really sweet elderly couple, David and Caddy, for several years. They were not romantically involved, just a man and a woman who had been friends for many years and lived in the same house after their respective spouses had passed. As David and Caddy got older and accumulated more medical problems, it became harder for them to get out and do the basic day-to-day errands that we all need to attend to, such as making doctor's appointment, doing the shopping, and going out for haircut. Because my wife's grandparents are two of the nicest people you will ever meet, they will regularly offer to transport David and Caddy wherever they needed to go, and made sure that they were taken care of, as well as handling chores around the house like cutting the enormous lawn to their 4+ acre property. In all the years, her grandparents took care of them. Entitled family never once showed up to help, or even seemed to call and see how their relatives were doing. Time passes, and as happens, Dave and Caddy learned that oddly, both of them are facing terminal illnesses and are not giving much time left. Suddenly, the entitled family began showing up to their house and began questioning them about their finances and what all arrangements they are making for their various accounts and properties. The real kicker though was that they would just show up and begin looking up serial numbers on all of their appliances and valuables such as the TV, so they could go check the value of such for when they went to strip the place bare and sell everything off. A few months later, Dave and Caddy pass away. With only a small window separating their death, they end up having a joint will reading as they both assume they will not outlive the other by much and decided not to divide out their belongings until they were both gone, as they both were for all intents and purposes a couple and held many things in joint custody. My wife's grandparents were invited by the lawyer to the will reading, and they assumed they would be getting some small items of sentimental value from their dear friends. On the day of the will reading, all of the entire family showed up, looking satisfied, asking be with themselves, believing they were about to rake in a pile of cash, valuables and property. Imagine the look on their entitled faces when the lawyer reveals that Dave and Caddy had left practically everything to the grandparents. The large 4-bedroom house with a finished basement, the 4+ acres of land with 3 ponds, their life savings and retirement equaling tens of thousands of dollars, and every other item they possessed. The entitled family were furious beyond belief, but it only got better from there, so that none of them would think that Dave or Caddy had forgotten them in their old age or from dementia or any other excuse. The entitled family might think up they were each left with $1 apiece, so that they had a chance to reflect on the way they treated their family. These people got practically nothing, and my wife and her sister and cousins got an essentially free ride through college, on top of a beautiful place to go visit the grandparents on the weekends. We actually had our wedding right there next to the largest pond, so thank you Dave and Caddy, may you rest in peace. Teacher tries to get me to fail, I get him fired. A bit of background information. This happened while I was in 8th grade and include my science teacher. So for some reason my 8th grade science teacher hated me. He was one of the 2 science teachers for our grade, so he could basically do what he wanted in our class and get away with it since the school did not have a replacement. He would do all sorts of petty stuff to me, like grading tests and practical assignments wrong. You had to do the practical assignments with a partner, so he got bad grades because of me too. He would accuse me of breaking tools, which I saw him break beforehand and give them to me. So one day I was homesick on purpose from school, and on that day we had a major science test. At like 3 in the afternoon, I sent him a message. Hey, science teacher, OP here. Since I was sick today, can I maybe make the test on Monday? He sent me a response 2 days later at 1 AM. Okay, I think, let's see where this goes. The message read as follows. Monday, 8:15, classroom 320, no calculator. He always acts passive aggressive with me, but what he did not know is that I had conspired with 2 of my classmates and they recorded him in the lesson saying, "You can use a calculator for the whole test." We recorded everything when this man made an announcement, and he only did it once every 2 lessons, so our phones did not get filled up. And I have been filming him breaking stuff and giving them to me at the practical assignments, and then recording him accusing me of breaking it. While the lessons were going on, almost everyone was on messing around on their phone, so it was not out of the ordinary for me to have my phone out. So when I showed up to make the test, he was 10 minutes late. He said, "I hope you remember, no calculator." I just said, "Got it," and made the test. Now this test was almost impossible without a calculator. I saw him laughing to himself the entire time. 2 weeks go by. Yes, really, and I get my grade. I got a 3 on 10. I think that's like an F, I don't know. So I did what anyone will do. I gathered my 2 friends who had the evidence on their phones and went to the principal. I explained the whole situation and showed him all of the footage that we had gathered. He called the science teacher in and asked us to leave the room. 5 minutes later, he calls us back in. He informs us that we will all be suspended for 5 days for filming a teacher, but that the teacher will be fired and never allowed to work at that school again. Oh, and if you're wondering, I was allowed to retake the test and I got a 9 on 10. Needless to say, I felt pretty good afterwards. Wow, that was very blunt of them. They took the risk to record him, take notes, and set him up. They did everything to make sure that he was going to fall. I don't know if this ended his career, but this is a huge move for someone. It is possible that another school will not even hire him because of the past accusations. And it's not even accusations, he got fired for them. But do you know who else can get fired? You. You can get fired if you don't subscribe. If you don't subscribe to the channel, you're gonna get fired. So go, I'm waiting. go subscribe now and hit the bell button, okay? Because now I got you on camera and I will tell you teacher, the principal, the mayor, the president, and the prime minister. What? They can only be a president or a prime minister? No, I'm gonna tell both of them. And you know what? You better like the video as well. And you better leave a fire emoji in the comments, because if not, I'm gonna tell your mom. And I don't think your mom will be proud of you after knowing you didn't leave a fire emoji on my video. But do you know who else can get fired? You can get fired if you don't subscribe. If you don't subscribe to the channel, you're gonna get fired. So go, I'm waiting. Go subscribe now and hit the bell button, okay? Because now I got you on camera and I will tell you teacher, the principal, the mayor, the president, and the prime minister. What? They can only be a president or a prime minister? No, I'm gonna tell both of them. And you know what? You better like the video as well. And you better leave a fire emoji in the comments, because if not, I'm gonna tell your mom. And I don't think your mom will be proud of you after knowing you didn't leave a fire emoji on my video.